Good bean juice, make me go fast. What are we cooking today? Well, if you've heard of shepherd's pie, you probably know that traditionally there's lamb in it. Today there's not lamb in it, we're using a chuck roast. So technically it's cottage pie. It's going to be delicious. Follow along and let's make some cottage pie. Alright, now for our chuck roast we're going to use a Worcestershire sauce as a binder. You can use your favorite binder. Normally I do like mustard for a brisket or other things, pork shoulder. Today we're going to go with Worcestershire sauce. Thin layer on the sides, the top, and then we're going to do SPG. Keep it simple. I don't want big barbecue flavors on this. It's not really a barbecue dish. I'm going to start with the kosher salt. Black pepper. This I'm going to go a little heavier with. Last but certainly not least, granulated garlic. SPG. Go lighter than pepper, probably lighter than salt also on this. Over your sides. Over your sides. Same thing on the back side or bottom. We already did the top and the sides. A little bit of Worcestershire sauce. Thin layer all around. A little bit of kosher salt. Black pepper. Normally I've got more coarse grained black pepper than this, but it'll do just fine. Use what you got at home. It's not a big deal. And last with the garlic. Granulated garlic or garlic powder. Do not use garlic salt. That's different. Alright. We're going to put this straight in the fridge to let everything soak in. Let it sweat a little bit in the fridge. And we're going to go get our smoker fired up. You can cover it with foil if you want to. I'm just going to stick it straight in here. Just like that. Let's go get our smoker fired up. Tumbleweeds. Well, I couldn't find my grill gloves, so my welding gloves will have to do. Whoop. Run away. Today we're going to be cooking on our good old trusty Char Griller Grand Champ XD Series offset smoker. And we're going to be cooking at a temperature of 250 degrees. We're going to cook this chuck roast like a brisket. SPG. With a Worcestershire sauce binder, as you saw. Cook it at 250 degrees until an internal temperature reaches about 155, 160, at which point we're going to wrap tightly in foil and carry that internal temperature to 205, 210 degrees. We're going to let it rest for a little while, and then we're just going to, it should just fall right apart, and that's what you're looking for. So let's get this up to temp, and we'll put our chuck roast on. Alright, we're up to temp. Get our beautiful, delicious smelling chuck roast on. Now to monitor the temperature, I'm using an InkBird IBT6XS probe thermometer. Got the probe right here to monitor the temperature of the cooker. If you want one of these, I'll put a link down in the description if you want a more accurate reading of what your temperature is in here, because these dials on the lid get kind of out of whack and they're not super accurate all the time. So rock that at 250 until we get a nice bark going, and then I'll check the internal temperature. We should be somewhere around 150 by the time a nice bark develops. And once we hit 160, we'll wrap it in foil, put it back on. We'll be back in a minute. Alright, so right now our internal temperature is 155 degrees. I like the way this thing looks. Nice, dark, color, good bark on it. So we're gonna take it out, wrap it in the foil nice and tight, put it right back on, put the probe back in and bring it to 205, and then we're gonna pull it off and let it rest. So let me get this wrapped up and we'll get it back on here. Now we wrap nice and tight so we don't have any like pockets in there, because it'll create steam while it's cooking in its own juices and it'll ruin that bark that you got developed there. So nice and tight, just like that. Throw it back on, put our probe right back in the middle. It's already feeling pretty good. Alright, we'll bring the internal up to 205 like I said. I got a nice another piece of wood in there that's nice and caught. Close that up. So we're going to bump the temp up to about 300, 325. Bring her home. Alright, now while we've got that wrapped up and coming up to 205, 210, got some peeled russets here. You can use whatever potato you want. Peel them, cut them in half. We're going to throw them in this pot full of water. And we're going to bring those to a boil and cook these potatoes until they are fork tender. Once they're fork tender, they're done. You can kill the heat. And I'll show you what to do with them after that. So we're just going to cut these in half, drop them in the water. Just like that. A couple little halves. In the water they go. That one's small, I'm not going to cut that in half. Alright, so boil your potatoes until they're fork tender, and I'll show you what to do next. Alright, while we got our potatoes going, we're just going to take 2 larger carrots. We're going to just peel these. Cut the end off. 2 carrots peeled. Now I'm right-handed and this is kind of a bad angle for you guys, but alright, take our shredded carrots. Alright, for the onion, I'm going to leave this one side on, a little knob. I would say this top end we're going to cut off. Get rid of that. I left the knob on there because it's much easier to grate leaving that knob on there. Once you get down to the knob, well, you're done. There you have it. 1 grated yellow onion. You can use a white onion too if you prefer. Our potatoes, let me grab a big chunk here. Our fork tender goes right in, no problem. Falls right apart. Okay, so these are done. We're going to transfer these into this bowl and we're going to set them aside, and we're going to mash these. Alright, brought this back inside. As you can see, we're definitely in between 205, 210. Feels nice and probe tender. So we're going to let this rest. And while we let it rest, we're going to do our veggies in this cast iron skillet here. Alright, medium heat. Half a stick of butter. A little bit of olive oil. Let the pan get hot, let the butter melt down. Once your butter's melted down on medium heat, we'll stir in our onions and carrots. We want to get the onions to start to cook, render down a little bit, turn translucent. Then you want to mince 2 cloves of garlic right into the middle there. We're going to use half of a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. So 3 ounces of tomato paste. Right in the middle there. Mix that all together. We're going to add some thyme. Say about a teaspoon. Just get everything nice and mixed up. You'll notice everything's starting to darken up. I'm going to add just about a 1/4 tablespoon of flour in here, because we're going to actually add beef broth to this in a few seconds. We're going to start developing kind of a little roux or a fond in the bottom of the pan here, and that's what our beef broth is for. We're going to deglaze a little bit, and we'll shred up our chuck roast and get it in here. I'm not going to add much, just enough to cover the bottom of the pan. Like that. Deglaze it a little, and we're going to add another about half cup. Medium heat, stir it around a little bit. Let that come back up to a simmer, and in the meantime we're going to shred up our chuck roast. Here she is in all her glory. This is at a low simmer, so I'm just going to turn this down, and this should just pull right apart. Just break that up, drop that on in there. Small little pieces. Super tender. Just shredding right apart. So let me get this shredded up and in here. I'll be right back with you guys. Got a good smoke ring to this. I'm going to sneak a bite. Pretty much kind of tastes like brisket. So, alright, we've got all our chuck roast in here. We're just going to give this a good mix. Combine everything up. Put this back to medium heat. If you guys could smell this, man. At this point I'm going to add a little bit more beef broth. Keeping it on medium to low heat. Let that simmer away and thicken back up again. Hit it with a little bit of garlic powder, or granulated garlic, a little bit of black pepper. While that's going, we're going to mash our potatoes. Half a stick of butter, a little bit of granulated garlic powder, a little bit of salt, black pepper, and we mash. Now if these are too chunky, or you want them creamier, you can add a little milk. I'm not going to add it at this point. I might in a little while. We'll see where we get. Give this another good stir. Really starting to thicken up. Don't forget we still have peas, but we're going to add them when we put this all together. Alright, we're going to kill the heat on this. Beef is super tender. Everything's mixed together. I am going to finish this off in the oven. I only use the smoker to smoke the chuck roast. We're going to finish this off with the potatoes on top, our peas, maybe some grated Parmesan on top of the potatoes, and then in the oven it goes to darken the potatoes on top. So like I said, we've got a couple cans of peas that have been in the fridge. We're just going to spread these over the top here. Spread those around a little bit. Let's get our potatoes on there. Blob. 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 I think that was just the right amount of potatoes to use. Alright, now we're just going to smooth this out. And instead of doing like hatches or anything, we're going to wisp it. Like press in and lift up real quick. Alright, before my camera so rudely cut me off there, doing that to the potatoes, wisping it, will create more surface area, and when we put it in the oven to brown and darken the potatoes, it'll make these tips or the peaks kind of crunchy and delicious and awesome. And after that starts happening, we're going to pull it out, hit it with some grated Parmesan, put it back in. It's going to be amazing. I set the oven to 475 degrees. We're going to wait for that to come up, then we're going to toss this in. Alright, we're at 475. Got it in there like the middle of the oven on the rack. Timer for, we'll do 15 minutes and check on it. If it needs some more time, it needs some more time. We're just looking to brown the top of those potatoes there. So we'll be right back. Alright, as you can see, we've got some brown tips here, starting to darken around the edges. So at this point, I'm going to take some Parmesan cheese, and we're just going to shred it. I like a lot of cheese, if you can't tell. I've also brought the temperature of the oven down to 400. Let me zoom you out here. So we're at 400 degrees now. A bunch of Parmesan on top. Throw this back in. Get another 5 minutes. Set our timer, even though we don't really need it. 6 minutes. And then we should be done. Hear how crunchy it is? Crispy. Alright, nothing left to do but to eat it. Smoked chuck roast, carrots, onions, peas, crispy mashed garlic potatoes, melted Parmesan cheese. I'm impressed with myself because I've never made this before, and I'm glad I used the chuck roast. This is my not actual shepherd's pie. And it's good. I hope that was easy to follow along to. Give it a shot. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment down below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.